Okay, I'm Donald Gordon at 37 Marshall Street. I've lived here for 19 years. We both lived here for 19 years. And I'll let my wife introduce herself.
I'm Janet Gordon, his wife, Donald's wife. I've lived here for 19 years as well, raising 7 children.
And do you like living here?
Yes,
It's close to everything.
It's close to everything.
It's great, we've liked it so far. I mean, there's been some up and down sometimes, but overall, it's still not that bad. I mean, bearing that you have once in a while, like what happened recently, with that person, getting killed. But otherwise, it's been a fairly decent neighborhood. The kids like it. It's close to school. It's close to everything. It's close to downtown. So, and I guess it's the rise of some bad element within the neighborhood. We don't know everyone personally, as I'm thinking about it. Occasionally people come in the neighborhood that you don't know, maybe I don't know what kind of activities they're into, because usually when there's a crime, there's some outlying activities behind it, So whether it's a relationship or whether it's something drug deal or anything, I can't say for sure because I don't know all the facts.
It has a negative impact on us, trying to raise children here, and if every time you turn around there's a shooting going on, it's not a happy feeling at all. It can be very scary.
Mm-hmm. I mean, occasionally, from time to time, there's always an incident. Like I said, you never know what's going on in the neighborhood. Occasionally, there might be some drug activity because people move in, move out, which we have, you have no control over that. Who comes in, who goes out. We do have some stable people here who's been, stable as in they've been here for a while. So, they're fine people.
Yep.
But there are people who move in because you have apartment buildings, within the neighborhood. So, from time to time, the wrong people do come into the neighborhood.
Do you believe the police are handling this in a good fashion for you guys with recent events?
Yeah, I think they're really trying very hard, and I think there's a lot more police presence, more than.
Have you seen a more police presence since this incident?
Yes.
And
So
there's only so much the police can do too, I mean, it's like they can't be at every house, every neighborhood, standing in every corner, so the only thing that other people can do, if they see things happening, then at least they can call the police, let them know what's going on, and that's one way for the police to get involved. But otherwise, if none of the neighbors say anything to the police, they'll never know, until something happens or somebody call, when there's a bad incident. So even though they do patrol the area, let's say if there's criminal activity, people could be watching out for them, but then once they're gone, who's to say what happens then, They're human beings, and they can only do so much with the help of those, the people in the neighborhood. Because if the people say nothing, if everybody keeps their mouth shut, then, they'll never get anywhere. But, by them saying, hey, we see this activity happening that shouldn't be, then they can keep an eye on things and, be around a little more,
Are you guys going to be more diligent now that some things have happened?
Yes.
You're going to be watching out for...
Definitely, yes. Certainly.
Yeah? Have you talked to any of your neighbors about it and how they feel?
Not really. We had a little get-together just down the street there.
Last week.
Close at the house where it happened, where the young man lived.
Yep.
And a little neighborhood kind of meeting. So we discuss about probably having, other activities every so often, so people come together and get to know each other. Because that's kind of one of the things here, everybody keeps to themselves, sort of, and it's like no one trusts the other one, and so on and so forth.
Everybody try to mind their own business,
Yeah.
as they would say, but sometimes minding your own business in
That
society has changed a lot,
Right.
And people tend to, like, for example, with my neighbor over there, we talk all the time, when we see each other, but, the other people who come in ever so often, there's new people coming in, so unless you go over there, introduce yourself, and, that's another, it takes a little bit to do that, to go you know, jumping in, because sometimes people move in, they don't want anybody bothering them. They just want to be there by themselves, leave me alone, kind of thing, you know. So if we see them, sometimes we see the people, we exchange greetings, you know, hello, hi, so forth, you know.
I think it's some kind of social, what's the word?
Stigma.
Yeah, in American society to begin with. I think it's from you know, kids are at a young age, talk to them about stranger danger and everything, and then it from one society to another, you know, it's embedded in everybody. So I think that's probably one of the reasons why, you know, people don't get together. They don't trust you, and you know, don't trust the next person, and so on and so forth. So you know, we're hoping that can change somewhat. Not everybody's bad.
No.
You meet some nice people over time. You once you get to know some people, you know, they're nice people, but you'll never meet everybody either. You know.
Do you think you want to do that? Do you think you want to try to meet everybody? Do you think you want to get together with the neighbors you do know and introduce yourself to everybody, or?
Yeah, most people, because, like, for instance, I have I have a couple of kids that are disabled, but one's worse than others, and you know, sometimes he might wander off and so on. It would be nice if somebody knew, like, you know, that he belonged to us and could possibly secure him and
bring him right back.
here. That would be good.
In times past, we used to have some friends that live across the street and some people up the street, and they knew him, so if they saw him wandering away, you know, they'd sometimes bring him back, you know, so which is good, you know. He doesn't wander as much anymore now, you know. He's more,
any plans to change this neighborhood?
well, I guess it's the people. It's
Well, I mean, you guys, are you guys going to do anything actively? You thinking of trying to do something?
They mentioned talking about a neighborhood watch or thing like that. So when they have the meeting, we'll attend and see, you know, what they can do to.
I think Dolores, city council, she normally is ahead of it, and she normally invite the police and the mayor and so on, because we had all of them down there the other day at the meeting. A lot of, you know.
You already went to a meeting?
Yes, they had a meeting last Tuesday, just down.
Okay.
I don't remember the number, but at the house where that young
Man lived.
got killed.
And the council showed up for that?
Yes.
The
and
councilor, the mayor, the police chief, and
Quite a
some
couple
other
of police.
folks who are in the city government.
And how do you feel that meeting went?
Well, I think it kind of gave you a better overview of, you know, what everyone think about it, and that they're proactive trying to get the neighborhood together, get the people together, you know. So it was very good to go talk to them, and you know, you understand that, hey, you can call them if you need something. If you see something happening in the neighborhood, then you can at least alert them, let them know, you know. And anything that we need, we can call them and talk to them about that.
I know normally situations like this make you feel unsafe. Did that make you feel safer, having them come up and actually be here to talk to you?
Yes, I think it did. I guess I heard that there was one resident on the street that kind of locked herself in and closed her windows and curtains and everything, because she thought that it might incite more violence, having a meeting and the police being there. I didn't think that was right. I think that she should have come out and hear what's going on, and if she had any input. You know,
Exactly.
That wasn't a good thing.
That's when some people want to
Yeah.
maybe too much fear, so they want to stay to themselves in that case. But I think this was a time to be open. I mean,
Right.
if there was going to be a crime, nobody's going to commit a crime when there's a lot of police
Exactly.
standing around.
I know.
You know,
Right.
they're going to be fleeing away from that. So
That's right.
if the police is there to try to make things better, to give us insights and all that, then by all means they should, you know, come out, hear what they have to say. You know,
Yeah.
and that's what we did.
Did that make you feel safer, though?
Well, I guess yes, in the sense that, you know, they're going to be around, and you know you can, you know, get in
And that
touch
they're
with
actually
them.
taking a look at what's going
Yeah,
on?
they want to be
Not just it
proactive.
happened and they go away?
That's right.
Exactly.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly right.
And to know that I mean, many times people don't want to call because they see something, it might be small, but, you know, I said if it's suspicious enough that it could bring, you know, hey, call them. You're not going to lose anything by calling them, you know. And that's what they're there for, you know. They let you know that they're there for that purpose to.
Do you hope this all stops?
Oh, definitely. You know,
Definitely.
no one wants to see this continuing. You know, But you know, people have to change. You know, you can have all the police you want there, everybody else that you want there, but individuals got to change.
So, Fred, how long have you been living here?
32 years.
32 years in this one spot?
This one 3-room apartment, yeah.
Wow. So you've seen kind of how the neighborhood has been over the years, and what are your thoughts? What was the neighborhood like when you first moved here 32 years ago?
Well, I think it was probably a little bit better. Although this apartment, the landlord that I had just purchased this apartment, and he had some rough characters in here. But he had just bought the apartment house, and I was his first new tenant. When he bought the house, there were other people living here, and but some of them weren't that savory, so he cleaned them out. He told them they had to leave after they got into a few debacles, and it was very good for quite a while after that. And then as time went on, there were a few rough spots. I remember one time when there was a taxi driver shot down on High Street, and within the same week, another transient person was stabbed to death on Mount Globe Street. And in that same week, I was jumped and mugged here on Marshall Street.
Oh, wow. What year was that, roughly?
Probably, it was in the late 90s, probably like around around 1994. I was working at the community support home up on Garnett Street, the Grandview Rest Home. I was the weekend staff supervisor there, and I was walking to work around 10:30 at night, and some young fellow thought I'd get fresh and made a few remarks, and we had a little altercation out in front of the house. But that was the only time anything like that's ever happened to me, and nothing really became of it. So, anyhow, that was the only problems I've ever had personally. My car has never been broken into. My apartment was broken into once, probably back in the mid-'80s, and that's the only time.
Now, what are your thoughts on this recent spate of violence, and this sort of has culminated in this young man who had lived in the building next door being found,
I know it.
Fatally injured on the back porch of this building.
Yeah, it was very disturbing. Very disturbing. Like I say, this apartment has gone through periods where it's been, this neighborhood has gone through periods where it's been very good. And then there's always been a period where it seems to get a little rough. But the neighborhood folks are usually on top of that, and the police are also usually do a pretty good job in getting out the drug dealers and things like this. And even the city health department, every once in a while, they'll shut down a building to an absentee landlord who just lets his house go out to anybody without really screening them. And there's a lot of code violations, so they would approach him and tell him either clean it up or get out. So he would just abandon the property, and then the city would just take it for a while. And so that's how we would get rid of certain undesirable landlords. And the place would be good for a while. We've also had very good citizens, like Annie DiMartino used to live right across the street, and she was a great resource for patrolling up and down the street. And we had Mrs. Fagan that used to live next door. She lived in that house for 60 some odd years. And she wouldn't be afraid to walk up and down Marshall Street every morning. She just moved to the Sundial a few months back.
What's her first name?
Pauline Fagan.
And Annie was a former city councilor, right?
Yeah. She was very vocal. Wasn't afraid to let anybody know that what they were doing didn't seem too kosher. So we missed those folks, but like I say, it was disturbing because I had been through so many periods of this neighborhood getting really good, and then getting not so good. Overall, it's been pretty good place to live. It's a little noisy, you get the city noise, you get loud music sometimes, and of course the fireworks are always kind of distressing in the summertime, but it hasn't been too bad this year, surprisingly.
So, Were you home on
No.
that day that the man was found?
No, I was not home. Trying to think what I was doing. I think I went to the Y for my workout, and then I had to work down the church. I'm a member of the First Parish Unitarian Church at the Upper Common, and I do a lot of volunteer work there, and I was probably in there, cleaning up or something. I also have a small yoga business, a yoga studio in that church, which I attend to a lot. I teach there. And so I'm down there quite often. That's kind of like my office. So when I came home, I noticed that the whole Marshall Street was taped off with, police caution tape. And so I had to park down the road. I walked up, and my whole apartment, just from this side to that side, was completely blocked off.
What was your first thought when you saw
I
all
goes, oh
of
my
that?
God, I says, what the hell has happened here today? What's happened? Don't tell me it's something in my house, because everybody here is pretty good tenant, It's always been good tenants in this house. I've always had very good landlords. I've only had 2 landlords, and one of them just sold the place about 6 months ago, and the new landlord is also extremely good landlord. So my first thought was, what possibly could have happened here? I had no idea. And then when I talked to my neighbors, when I walked up to the street, they were telling me that, there was a fellow found downstairs stabbed. And so I approached the policeman and told him that I'm the manager of this building, and if I could come into the house. And he says, no, I'll not let anybody in or out at the time. And I said, well, I have a neighbor downstairs, 83 years old, Jane, and she's a great friend of mine, and I was very concerned about her. And he told me not to worry. He says she's never been safer. There's so many police around the area. He says she's never been safe with all the cops that are in the area right now. So anyway, they told me that I wouldn't be able to go in, and that I would have to come back a little later on, and I'd probably be able to get in later on that evening around 8 or 9 o'clock, which I did. I had other things I could do, so.
Now, were you familiar at all with the victim?
Not at all. No, I may have seen him in passing once or twice, but never took much notice. I never, has been no picture of him or anything to really say if I could remember seeing him or not. So I can't say that I really knew him or anything, or knew anything about him or the person he was living with at the time.
Now, what you had spoke out. You were pretty vocal at the community meeting
Right.
vigil combination event that
Right.
Councilor Dolores Tiba Munoz had hosted last week. What are your thoughts on what's happening here, and how can the neighborhood bounce back from these recent events?
Well, personally, I was really distraught at the events that happened, but with the gathering of the community and the overwhelming support of my landlord and his handyman, who have only recently purchased the place 6 months ago and are determined to stay and keep a positive presence with the landlord association in the neighborhood and getting involved in the neighborhood. They even planted a bunch of nice flowers and shrubs right in the front yard. The day before this incident happened, they had already started to fix the place up. So I was very encouraged. I was pretty discouraged before that. I thought about moving and everything, but then the support of the landlord and also the people in the community that came together that night. And even since then, when I see people walking up and down the street, there's a big smile and a big hello, how are you? We chat a little bit. I'm more apt to reach out more and greet my neighbors more than I used to be, to get to know your neighbors, So I thought that was very good. I'm a big believer in connecting. I belong to a couple of fellowships where I stay very connected, and it's especially when you live alone, you can get isolated. So but I have some good friends and some good fellowships that I belong to, and I find that extremely important to helping you through difficult times. So I'm all for reaching out and making connections. I think that has a lot of positive energy in it.